7 dark psychology triggers behind why women sometimes pull away from their husbands. People often paint marriage as a warm place filled with affection, teamwork, and emotional safety. But real life doesn't always match that picture. Many men discover that the woman they once felt closest to slowly starts becoming distant. Conversations shrink, affection cools down, and the home begins to feel strangely unfamiliar. Almost as if they're sharing space with someone who's slipping further away each day. Why does this happen? The reasons are rarely simple. In many cases, what looks like distancing is tied to subtle psychological strategies, conscious or unconscious, that people use to cope, gain control, or express hurt without saying a single word. Today, we're breaking down 7 dark psychology dynamics that explain why some women begin to ignore their husbands, and what's really happening beneath the silence. 1. The silent power move. Silence can dominate a room far more effectively than anger ever could. Instead of engaging in an argument where emotions might spiral, some women retreat into quietness as a way to signal control. A husband might ask something simple, and instead of hearing a reply, he gets a blank stare or she walks away. This leaves him unsettled, prompting him to chase clarity. In psychology, this is known as withholding, a way of saying, "I decide when my attention is available." The unsettling part? Silence almost always creates more self-doubt than harsh words. Once uncertainty takes root, the person using silence holds the leverage. 2. Testing emotional attachment. Pulling back to see if the other person moves closer. It's an old psychological pattern. Some women ignore not because they're detached, but because they're checking how emotionally invested their husbands still are. This mirrors intermittent reinforcement, a cycle where affection appears unpredictably, making the recipient crave it even more. Like a gambler who keeps pulling the lever, a husband might try harder each time attention is withdrawn, never knowing when warmth will return. The inconsistency itself becomes the hook. 3. Emotional distance as quiet revenge. When a woman feels wronged, hurt feelings dismissed, trust damaged, or emotional needs overlooked, she may choose withdrawal over confrontation. Ignoring becomes a form of punishment wrapped in silence. You hurt me, so you don't get my closeness. It doesn't take a major betrayal for this to happen. Even repeated small disappointments can accumulate over time. The distance becomes the message, and the husband feels the coldness every day without hearing a single accusation. 4. Psychological projection. Sometimes the distance has little to do with the husband himself. When someone is wrestling with insecurity, dissatisfaction, or internal confusion, they may project those feelings outward. Instead of admitting, "I feel lost," the mind reframes it as, "You're not enough." The husband then becomes the target of emotions that don't actually originate from him. Projection is powerful because it hides the true source of discomfort, leaving the ignored partner believing he is the problem when the real conflict is internal. 5. Manipulative withdrawal conditioning. In behavioral psychology, this resembles operant conditioning. A woman may withhold attention as a way to subtly train her husband to change specific behaviors. Instead of correcting him directly, she disappears emotionally until he adjusts. Forget a responsibility? Fail to notice something important? Affection suddenly vanishes. Over time, the husband learns to anticipate the withdrawal and modifies his behavior automatically, not out of understanding, but out of fear of being emotionally cut off. It's manipulation disguised as discipline. 6. Quiet comparison and hidden discontent. A painful truth is that people sometimes withdraw because their attention drifts elsewhere toward idealized versions of relationships, other men they notice, or fantasies shaped by social media. Dark psychology suggests that ignoring often signals a mental investment outside the relationship. Instead of saying, "I'm not fulfilled," she detaches, buries herself in her phone, or finds comfort in distractions. Her silence becomes the unspoken sentence. This isn't giving me what I want. 7. Learned patterns from the past. Ignoring doesn't always come from malice. Sometimes it's simply a script someone has repeated since childhood or past relationships. If they saw silence used as punishment while growing up, or if it once gave them control in earlier partnerships, their brain stores it as an effective coping tool. The husband may feel lost, wondering why she withdraws so easily, but to her, this behavior feels familiar, almost automatic. Old patterns have a way of resurfacing in marriage, even when they're unhealthy. Final thoughts. When a woman ignores her husband, it's almost never without an underlying reason. The quiet can come from fear, frustration, comparison, testing, resentment, insecurity, or deeply ingrained habits. And while the silence feels personal, the cause isn't always about the husband at all. For men who face this, the worst thing to do is to accept it blindly without understanding the psychology behind it. Awareness breaks the cycle. Once you recognize these patterns, you stop attacking yourself and start seeing the dynamics more clearly. And remember, ignoring doesn't always signal the end of love. Sometimes it's an indirect plea for connection, respect, or emotional acknowledgement. Other times, it's an attempt to gain control. Knowing the difference matters. Healthy relationships grow through honesty, not through silence used as a weapon. Because love survives not in the shadows, but in open understanding and communication. Welcome to Psychology. Fact, if you want deeper insight into hidden emotional patterns, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a perspective that might shift the way you see relationships forever.